a lot of in the Tai Chi magazines that I've been going through and picking out some of the good articles.
Mhm.
Maybe there might be one or two with like maybe Yang Ji, Yang Do, Fu Zhong Wen, Fu Zhong Wan. A lot of them all agree like the first three of the 10 principles are probably going to be the most important for beginners to start off with. We know that the first one is raising the head, empty and lively, pushing up the energetics. And the second one is hold the chest and pull the back. Now, there's an upward force going here and then a downward force going on the second one, but we have to skip all the way to the fifth one because there's another sinking of the shoulders and dropping the elbows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second one is hold in the chest and pull up the back. I'm sorry. We go all the way to the fifth one where we have the sink the shoulders and drop the elbows, which is an opposite of the first one. So one force is going up, one's going down. This is almost elongating the spine too, kind of like opening up the joints in the neck.
Yes.
And we know to gaze at the horizon when we're doing the Tai Chi form. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think from a beginner's standpoint, point number 5 is really, really important, and it has to come after point number 1.
Mhm.
So most people have shoulder tension, shoulder issues, neck issues because of our sedentary lifestyle, computers, social media on phones, etc., etc. So
The forward head posture.
well, that's another subject as well, that one, forward head position. And I think that is a confusion of point number 2. So the eyes and the forward head position, because people are sinking and rounding the back, it's open the back, not round the back. Open the back. The back needs
Yeah,
to be
I've
open.
I've heard the phrase use the tiger's back, not the old man's back.
Yes, yes. So, and the tiger's back is related to a different thing as well. It's explosion. It's you've got to be explosive. They move first, I arrive first. That means I have to come out of the blocks, so to say. I need to explode into position fast. I can't just dawdle along into position if it's some sort of fight or conflict. So we're kind of getting off the track. So if we look at point number 5 as being coupled with point number 1 at the very beginning of someone's journey into Tai Chi, these points are fantastic. They're going to give them some of the quick results that people are after, i.e. raising the spirit so you're not collapsing. Keep the elbows down in a position that allows the shoulder to stay relaxed. Once the elbows come up past 40 degrees or 45 degrees, the shoulder starts to raise. You've engaged a muscle called levator scapula, which attaches about here on the edge of the scapula, attaches to the top 4 cervical vertebrae. Now, this has a lot of compression. If I raise both shoulders up, I'm compressing down my spine. If I raise my head and I keep my humerus angle at no more than 45 degrees, you can see I get this elongation and raising of my spine, raising of my posture.
There's so many, you see so many Taiji people pulling in these Yichuan postures for Zhangjuan. They're like they have their hands up here, but look at my shoulders. They're kind of jacked up.
Exactly.
Chinjia Wang came to town. He keeps it low down here. Here's my nipples. He's down here. He's not jacked up here. You see some of these Tai Chi people like, oh, I'm doing Zhangjuan, these Yichuan postures, but
Yes,
they're raising their shoulders.
exactly. What happens when you raise your shoulders up? It's not just levator scapula is engaged. You engage thoracis longissimus, mid back, the rectus spinae, multifidus, the rotatories, all engaged. That means my back is tense. If your back is tense, you're going to be easy prey for a skilled player to push you. You're already going backwards. So it's back-centric. You've
And this
got
is
too many
something they
things.
call floating too in Tai Chi. It's the opposite of sinking. It's like a floating force.
It's the fault
You
of
mentioned something your Sifu said about floating. Can you
yes.
remind me what that was?
It's the fault of floating.
The fault of floating.
The
Okay.
fault of floating is is that you do not adhere to. There's 4 principles with this one. Is the second principle. You could go first principle, second principle, fourth principle, and fifth principle. And to be quite honest, you could probably put in the other 6 principles into this and the qua, because the fault of floating means that you're not grounding yourself.
Circling back to the sink the shoulders and droop the elbows or sink the elbows.
Yeah.
A good boxer keeps his elbows tight to protect his ribs. But you told me before that when we're doing like the push, we're kind of doing like a split, but my elbow, here's the side of my body, my elbow's not going, here's my center line, it's not going behind it.
That's
It
correct.
goes almost to it and then forward.
That's correct.
Because that's gonna create some structural inintegrity. Like once my elbows goes back, I've already lost. I've already compromised my structure.
Yes. Once the elbows go past the center line, you engage the back again. So many of the muscles that I spoke about before switch on.
Yeah, you actually talked about a couple different muscle groups when you do that. Can you mention those again?
So again, in the lower down, you're going to have, say, quadratus lumborum. You might have the rectus spinae, multifidus rotatories. There's quite a lot of others. You have
So
serratus.
those become what? They become tense, or
No, they engage.
they engage, but you want them relaxed.
Yes, I want them to be used in the structural capacity, in their alignment capacity. I don't want them switching on in a way that my mass is moving backwards. I need a forward projection of my mass or my chi. I don't want to take my chi back. And this is the fault of floating again, is that if we do these movements this way and the elbows go back past halfway, we tend to start to rock. Okay, so I'm now rocking backwards and forward, and I don't want to do that, because if I'm rocking, I can't turn the waist connected to the lower part of my body. And that's the other thing in roll back, or in this movement here, is that I turn the waist. So as the force, I turn the force, the other person's force comes in and I turn, and then I express back out. So I don't want the other person's force to come into my structure and further complicate or how would you say, further destructure my body position, because my mass is already back. I don't want to take their force and couple it with my structural fault, because I'm not going to be able to stop their force or turn my waist. This is the physics of Tai Chi. And this takes us into another realm, which maybe we could have a little chat about today, or we can put this in as another video, is Ting Jin, following drills. And what is Ting Jin?
Okay, so when it came to Tinjing, I was taught that, okay, let's take 2 simple examples. Leading and following in cloud hands, or leading and following in brush knee. But it's just a drill, a partner complementing each other, but it's not a push hands drill like I'm trying to push you, you're trying to push me. It's just sensing, using your nervous system to listen to the other opponent's movement, and you're just following, or one person's actually leading and one person's just following. That's all it is. To people are making a big deal about this and song, when there's a lot of other jins, song jin, ten jin. Okay, those are important, yes, but there's going to be a dozen other ones too that we need to train as well.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, the Ting Jin is listening. So it's listening via your pressure senses. That's the part of the nervous system. So your pressure senses. So if I'm holding this here, it's the part of my nervous system that recognizes that I am making contact with something, and I move in a way that maintains a reasonable connection depth. Okay, you can use the analogy 4 ounces staying connected, but as long as that depth is consistent, and try not to change that. So the Ting Jin drills, the Yang Family Ting Jin drills, you start off in a static position and, like you said, cloud hands, or some people just say circling. Connection should be always on the wrist, which then brings you to the beginning relationship with wrist Jin leading. So this is how the form couples with it. So really, the person who's doing Ting Jin and they haven't learned and haven't started the process of Jin Li Dian isn't going to understand the practice at all. It's like making a t-shirt and only getting half the material. You only have the back, you don't have the front, you don't have any t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how this relationship is. So if you imagine we start this process of moving in a physical relationship with another person, but it's opposite to what most people think. When we play push hands or Ting Jin, we need to play as though there's nobody there. Just recognize the pressure and just move with its angles of intensity, whether it's this way or circling this way or circling that way. Once you're comfortable with this interaction while you're in a static stance, then you can move to moving forward and back, or maybe stepping side to side, and then you move free. And as you said, one person generally follows the other. It's a negotiated situation. And then at a high level, it's free. But there's no pushing, there's no jamming the person, there's no disrupting them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the beginning. I don't want to set someone's fight and flight. Okay, the flexor reflex action, because we have startle reflex, we engage our flexors. We don't want this to happen because we destructure the student. We make it harder for them to become efficient and to get connection with the body. These things happen way down the track in the process. And this is important to understand when we teach it at the school. We have a great time, people interacting and moving back, and it's more like a dance and people having a good time. They progress quicker, much, much quicker. And they also start to learn the connection between the form and these type of drills. They're extremely important. And as we move on, and what you were saying is this deep connection between how you add song into Tai Chi practice, how you add song into Ting Jin, and how song is relevant into the 10 points and the other principles. Oh, look, it was really wonderful talking to you again, Matt. Can't wait to be in Washington in a few days' time. And hopefully we get to do a lot of push hands, a lot more form work. 5 solid days of training. It'll be wonderful. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You're most welcome to leave your comments below. And take care of yourself. Train hard. See you again. Ciao. Bye for now.
You too.